What's the state of the U.S. military? Can we get a report card? And what should the new Congress, led by Republicans, be saying, asking, investigating with regard to the Pentagon and our military readiness? We continue with Jim Hanson. He's a retired member of the United States military, Special Forces, now president of Worldstrat. But we just like to refer to him as Kurt Schlichter without the charm. Jim, thanks for continuing.
Or the law degree.
Or the law degree. Or the hot, no, actually you have a hot wife too.
You
guys all have
Our hot wives are buddies.
Yeah, there you go. You like Congressman Waltz, Michael Waltz. He was
Great
the
guy.
First guest we ever had here on O'Connor tonight, and
Nice.
continues to be a frequent guest. He's now been named as the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. He's ready for investigations. I'm thinking Afghanistan should be at the top of the list, right?
It was a debacle, and I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Unfortunately, he won't be able to get to where the real blame is, which is the civilians in the Biden administration. But the military had plenty of problems and did some dumb things too, so let's find out.
I agree with you. It was probably the civilian advisors to President Biden who made that decision for political reasons and not for national interest and what have you. However, I remember a time when the military had honor and respect and dignity, and they would rather resign than go along with something that would be so disastrous. What's going on with the leadership at the Pentagon?
Yeah, nobody fell on their sword on this one. No one decided that I have to turn in my spurs or anything like that. They all saluted and went ahead and handed over control of our security in that country to the Taliban.
Yeah.
So we have
not just our security, handed over all of our equipment to them.
They had them leave the weaponry. The Qataris paid the Taliban to go ahead and do that on our behalf. And the U.S. military just said, well, I guess we'll be fine if we don't have an airfield or anything to use to conduct this evacuation. And someone at some point should have thrown a flag on the whole thing and said, we cannot do that.
Yeah.
I will be the one who will stand firm.
The last two elections to the House of Representatives brought a whole host of military veterans who ran as Republicans and won. And I'm sure you saw the great press conference that Michael Waltz put together when they were having the fight over the Speaker of the House. He has all these militaries saying, we're ready to go, let's go. That's who's going to be sitting and asking these questions. How more powerful is it to have people who had just been wearing the uniform and fighting in these conflicts asking Lloyd Austin and General Milley these questions?
It's devastatingly powerful, because I'm not one of the chicken hawk people who says you can't have an opinion on war or whether we should go or not because you didn't serve or aren't serving. But when you've got someone who's got dust on their boots standing there saying, I'd like to ask you about how you got my friends killed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do about that? They're gonna crush them. I cannot wait.
Yeah. After Afghanistan, though, there's more concern about what's going on at the Pentagon right now with regard to training, with regard to emphasis on things like critical race theory instead of killing the bad guys. And we see recruitment. The numbers are in terrible shape. They're changing the physical standards for some branches of the military to accommodate the lack of military readiness and the lack of recruitment. I mean, where do you begin?
I think the first thing is maybe a little less emphasis on pride parades and pronoun parties, and a little more on fighting. And as you mentioned, the thing that was always in the military when I was there is we all bleed the same color, green.
Yeah.
We're all green. It was not black, white, brown. Nobody was grievance mongering among it. We all, put our arms together and we're brothers and sisters in arms. And I think they've destroyed that by injecting this woke ideology, and that has to stop. And the first thing is for people like Mike Waltz to go ahead and, now that he's got the opportunity, let's defund that crap. Let's not pay for critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's pay for war fighting. And that'll help.
That'll be a good start. Do they have allies on in the Senate side?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of people up there who can see the same thing, and it's going to be a challenge, because the Republicans don't control the Senate, but they control the power of the purse.
Right.
And they have to use that. Mitch may have sold us out for the short term, but that bill's going to come around again, and they got to get funded. And don't fund the woke garbage.
One other thing, we just spent our opening segment talking about the M1 tanks in Ukraine, and our conversation about what happened in Afghanistan and Taliban. It brings up one other scenario, worst case scenario, right? What happens if Russia puts on a larger aggressive offensive front? They end up winning, or they end up capturing our M1 Abrams tanks. I mean, those tanks could fall into the Russians' hands if we thought that part through. And what happens then?
They are whistling past the graveyard on that and a number of other things, because the whole the whole point of what they're doing in Ukraine has become so much more political than military and strategic minded that they're ignoring so many danger signs and red lights flashing that hopefully we don't get destroyed by that.
Admiral Kirby yesterday, in answering questions about this, the tanks going to Ukraine, he was asked by a reporter, are you worried about the corruption in the Ukrainian government? We've given them over $100 billion right now, all this equipment, and they're not known for their pristine, non-corrupt government actions. What about, and Kirby's, I don't know if you saw this, Kirby said, oh, we haven't seen any corruption over there. He can't even say that about our government.
Yeah, we saw nothing. I mean, it's an oligarchic kleptocracy that rivals Russia in corruption, and that's saying something. Yeah. So the idea that they say that, they have to, but it's a damn lie.
Yeah. Real fast, I want to shift you away from the military. You also, you write quite a bit. You wrote today at American Greatness, I saw your column about pistol grips. And this is one of those things that's like it turns your handgun basically into, it gives you a brace, right? Almost like, I see them in the movies all the time.
There you go. And the ATF had previously said that these were okay.
Right.
Because disabled vets
That was under the Biden administration too, by the way.
Yeah, this was not that long ago.
These are fine.
And basically they have reversed that now. And they said not only are they regulated under the National Firearms Act like machine guns, but you have to register them, and we're going to give you an amnesty on the $200 tax, but if you don't do that, you're a felon.
Wait, that's a hell of a reversal.
Yeah.
So these things come up and it's challenged, and they said, oh, everything's fine. These are legal. Everything's no problem. So everybody buys them, and now, oh, wait a minute, on second thought. So this is retroactively, if you...
Yeah, well, they're grandfathering in anyone who brought them previously.
Okay.
Right, and saying you get an amnesty. But if you bought a weapon that uses them, you have to register that. And most of the people who bought them were not looking to register their guns under the National Firearms Act with the feds.
Right.
I mean, no.
Because there is no national gun registration in this country.
No, but this is a great way to start one.
Exactly, because that's the thing. It was like, oh, we're not telling you have to register your gun, just your pistol grip. But if you're
and if it's part of it, if you bought it as a package, you're going to end up doing it anyhow.
By registering the attachment to your pistol, you're de facto registering your pistol.
Yeah, and the thing is...
That can't be constitutional.
Oh, well, it's whether or not the way they did it is constitutional probably isn't, because they're talking about intent. But they actually now are going to have to deal with the fact, the reason you can ban what they call short-barreled rifles, a rifle with a barrel less than 16 inches, is because they were banned, sawed-off shotguns and machine guns and all that were banned during Prohibition. Right? Sawed-off shotguns were only banned because there's no purpose for them for a member who's of the militia. Second Amendment is the militia, right? You're supposed to bring a weapon suitable for service in the militia. That's what you can own. Right now, that's an AR-15. But an AR-15 normally has a longer than 16-inch barrel, right? Except for one thing. The weapon now carried by the U.S. grunt is the M4 carbine. You know how long its barrel is?
Less than 16?
14 and a half inches. The U.S. military now carries short-barreled rifles. So the National Firearms Act, which uses that ruling, it's called Miller, USA versus Miller, to ban short-barreled rifles, is saying the U.S. military is not even...
It's basically not in compliance with the Constitution.
Now, they don't have to comply, but civilians have the right now to own what a grunt in the service does. That's what the other rulings by Scalia and Thomas did.
I was told by our president that you're never going to be able to... Why should you have a firearm that the service has? Because you'd have to get an F-16 or something.
Because the Constitution and our Supreme Court have ruled unequivocally that you have a right for any weapon in common use and suitable for service as a grunt in the militia. That now includes short-barreled rifles. So Second Amendment lawyers, call me. I'll be your expert witness.
Look at you. You're getting way too Schlichter. Hey, he said he didn't have Schlichter's law degree, but now you're trying to get all the...
I just want to get paid.
Yeah,
man.
I understand.
It's nice.
I don't even want to know what Worldstrat does.
You do. I'll tell you later.
All right.
It'll make you happy.
All right. That is Jim Hanson. How do people catch up with all of the stuff you're doing?
At Jim Hanson DC on Twitter is where I try to make good things happen, and hopefully Elon will let us keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. There you go. Jim Hanson at Jim Hanson DC on Twitter, as long as it lasts. And he's the president of Worldstrat. And Kurt Schlichter, watch your back. He's coming after your clients now, for God's sake. There's more to come. You're watching Salem News Channel. It's O'Connor Tonight.